Hi everyone, Yasas que kalos tirtete to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making pecan pie bars. They're so delicious. They're going to be made with a shortbread cookie crust, that gooey, sticky, lovely pecan pie filling. It's a wonderful thing to serve at your holiday table if you're looking for a nice dessert that feeds a crowd, and it's pretty simple to put together. Let's get started. So we're going to start off by making the crust, and I'm using my shortbread recipe for this, except whenever I make crusts like this now, I started adding a little bit of baking soda to the dough, and it really makes a huge difference because shortbread dough does tend to be a little bit dense, and this lightens it up just the right amount. So we're going to start off with 3 sticks of unsalted butter that are at room temperature. That's 3/4 pound of butter, and I'm using my stand mixer because it makes life so much easier. We're going to add that to the mixer along with 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1/2 cup of confectioner sugar, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to start that off on a slow speed so that way it doesn't end up all over the place. And then once everything is combined, I'm just going to increase the speed to high and mix it for 2 to 3 minutes or until it's nice and fluffy. Make sure you go in and you scrape down the sides and the bottom of the mixing bowl so that way everything is incorporated evenly. So next we have the dry ingredients. I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour with 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Just whisk that all together and add it to the butter ingredients. And then you also want to add some pecans to this. I feel like it does make a huge difference. It makes them more hearty and just so much better. So I have 1/2 cup of finely ground up pecans. I chopped up all of my pecans at the beginning so that way they're ready to go. Usually I like to add pecan halves, whole pecan halves on top of the pie, but this time I'm not doing that for these bars, so they're all chopped up, but 1/2 cup of them are going into the cookie dough. So mix that all together until a dough is formed, and then it's time to transfer the dough into the baking pan. I'm using a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, and then I have this big sheet, a 1/2 sheet of parchment paper. Just crumble it up. Crumbling it up helps it stay in place. If you want to, you can definitely take the extra step of cutting it so it can fit inside of the pan, but you don't want to skip this step because it's going to make it so much easier to slice these bars later on when you can just lift the paper out and then put it on a cutting board and cut the bars out. Otherwise, if you're just serving this family style, you just press the dough directly into the pan. It'll be fine. They'll still come out easier. You'll just have much neater slices if you use the parchment paper step. So go ahead and transfer all of the cookie dough to the pan and press it into an even layer. You want to go up a little bit up the sides of the pan, not that much, not all the way up, just enough so that way it holds the filling in place. So now it's time to bake the crust for a little bit. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to go in on the center rack and it's going to bake for about 15 or 20 minutes. You don't want to overbake this because once the filling is added, it's going to continue to bake even more, but you just want it to get a nice head start so that way it's crisp and not soggy at the end once the bars are all completed. So for the filling, I have 1 cup of light brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm also going to add a heaping teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I always go with a heaping teaspoon just because it's a fall flavor that I love. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix that all up. Next, I'm going to add a stick, which is 4 ounces of unsalted butter that's been melted. So corn syrup is a common ingredient in pecan pies, but I don't buy it. I never have it on hand. Instead, I'm using 1/2 cup of maple syrup and 1/2 cup of Greek honey. You can use any honey that you have on hand. It's a good idea to warm it a little bit, either in the microwave or if you put the honey in a bowl of really hot water just to loosen it up a little bit. Add that to the mixture, and it's just going to be so nice and just takes the place of corn syrup if you don't have it on hand. If you do, go ahead and use it, but the maple syrup and pecans is such a fabulous flavor combination. You're gonna love it. Next, a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Then go ahead and add 4 eggs that are at room temperature. Then go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. Whisk everything all together until it's nice and smooth and everything is combined. Next, I've already finely chopped some pecan halves. I'm just going to add 2 cups of them in the mixture. I'm going to switch to my spatula because the whisk tends to get pecans stuck in between the wires. So just mix that all together. And by this time, if your crust is ready and if it's out of the oven, you can go ahead and pour all of this filling on top and just spread it evenly. If it's not ready, just wait. And then before you add it to your filling, give it a final mix. So once the filling has been added, it's going to go back into the oven and it's going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for between 35 to 45 minutes. What you're looking for is for the edges to be completely set. The very center might still have a little bit of jiggle to it and you want it to be not completely set. Because it's warm, it's still gonna be a little bit on the thinner side. You just don't want the whole thing to wobble. You don't want it to be completely set because then it's gonna get kind of hard and it won't have that gooey component that everybody loves in pecan pie filling or pecan pies in general. Let it come out of the oven, and at this point you want it to set completely and come to room temperature. This tastes good slightly warm, but it is going to be easier to handle and easier to slice if it cools completely. That's probably the hardest part, just waiting about an hour or two for this. Once it sets and everything is done, carefully lift it out of the pan using the parchment paper, and then you can cut it into your whatever size slices you like. This makes 12 big slices, but of course you can make them smaller. You can go ahead and serve this with a scoop of butter pecan ice cream or vanilla ice cream, some fresh homemade whipped cream, whatever you like. It tastes good just the way it is. It's time for the taste test. This is the best pecan pie I've ever had in my whole entire life. The fork should just slice through the crust. That's the difference that it makes once you add baking soda to it. It just makes the shortbread much lighter. You can taste how buttery and crumbly the crust is. The filling is so flavorful. I love the cinnamon in it, the pecans. The maple syrup really gives it such great flavor. You guys are definitely gonna love this one. Call some friends over, make some Greek coffee, and share this goodness with your loved ones. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. The exact measurements are on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. If you want to learn how to make this with a phyllo crust, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.